and welcome to another episode of HomeTech. I'm Seth Johnson, and this week I am not joined by Jason Griffin. Jason is in the middle of a move from Los Angeles out to Denver and having some very interesting, should I say, adventures along the way. You can take a look over at Twitter and see what he's posted about that. In the meantime, I'm joined this week by a very special guest for Home Tech here, kind of one of the people that we look at every week and see what she's written about the home automation industry. And that's Julie Jacobson over at CEPro. She is just a wealth of knowledge and someone, if you are not following her, someone you should be following to keep up to date, up to the minute on a lot of these things. Over the past couple of weeks, Julie has published a couple of stories that I have personally found pretty interesting, and a couple of stories I just wanted to reach out and talk to the source and see what she said about it. So without further ado, we're pleased to welcome Julie Jacobson to the show. Julie, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm really excited to bring you on the show because I've got a couple of stories that we've been just tracking over the past couple of weeks that have just been big news and big trends, and I'd really just like to touch base with you. You are an industry veteran, and I say that because you've been around in the industry as long as I've been involved, for sure, and I think that you have been part of this industry and reporting on this industry longer than anyone that I know of. Can you just give our listeners, if they may not know you, and I don't know how they wouldn't, like who you are and a little bit of personal background and introduction?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I came from security distribution, so physical security alarms, CCTV, access control, stuff like that. We started a home automation division back in 1992. As part of that, the CEO just stumbled across a little magazine, and I use that term generously because it was more like a pamphlet called Electronic House, and bought it because he liked the brand. The security company was sold. 1994, he says, "Hey, Julie, you run a magazine?" I said, "Sure. How do you do that?" He says, "I have no idea. We'll figure it out." And that was a consumer magazine, and really our expertise was in dealers, and so we started the CEPro in 1994, and we are, I think, the best magazine publication out there for the trade, the home technology installers that are doing home theaters, home automation, lighting controls, motorized this, motorized that. 21 years I've been doing this, writing about the smart home in particular.
Excellent, and I'd have to agree that CEPro is one of the definitive news outlets that you can come across and read just about anything that is going on in the industry. We use it weekly on this show as a source for news and events and things that have gone on, and definitely some interesting stories that have happened, like I said, in the last couple of weeks, and want to just talk about here in a little bit. That said, I wanted to know a little bit more about. I read somewhere that you'd been to CEDIA a couple of times.
I think I've been to CES 22 times. CEDIA, I think, is closer to 20. I've been every year since I started going.
Wow.
And it started going a couple years before I entered the industry. So I think this will probably be my 20th one this year.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. And so I just hope our listeners, if they don't know you, then they don't know that you've been around this industry for longer than I think than most people that are in this industry. So are you seeing anything exciting for CEDIA this year? I think last year the most exciting thing that I saw was kind of the introduction. I don't know if it was introduction, but it seemed like there were more like user-facing devices that were being shown off there, like Nest, the drop cam, I guess they call Ring now. That particular doorbell was there. Yeah, there were a couple. I guess what I'm trying to say is there were a couple of like end user devices that were just kind of showing up, and I was pretty excited to see it and talk to those guys. And I think it just kind of, to me, felt like the industry is kind of converging finally, where you have the brand new stuff, and the industry. Our industry leaders like Control4, Crestron, Savant, AMX, all those are just kind of converging in the same place, and that's what was most exciting for me, at least last year at CEDIA. Are you seeing anything like that this year, or you kind of have your ear to ground and hear anything like that's going to come up this year?
I haven't done my research quite yet, but I do usually get on that pretty quickly and find out who's new and interesting for the show. And since I tend to focus more on smart home automation things, I generally don't know as much about audio and video trends. But yeah, the past couple of years we have seen more DIY type device manufacturers as opposed to system manufacturers attending CEDIA, which is the trade show for home technology installers. Dealers, integrators, home technology installers, whatever you call them, are kind of finicky about that space. And while they look at something like Nest and say, oh, that's a DIY product, I can't make any money on it, why would I want to carry that? Well, if you remember several years ago, they were all saying that about Sonos as well.
Right.
And the fact is it makes them money. So they do it because, in the case of Sonos, it was easy and a great experience. In the case of Nest, it's cool and hip, and people are asking for it, and it's expensive. Right,
and they bring people in your door. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have come in and said, yes. Do you guys do Nest? It's definitely an interesting place to go when you see those two, like the DIY products and then the custom products.
It is, and it's you wonder why they're there, but it might surprise more than a few people that this is a hugely important channel for them. Last time I talked to Sonos, really a deep dive with Sonos a few years ago, their largest channel of sales was the U.S. installer channel. It was not online. It was not in big box stores. It was not overseas. It was the U.S. installation channel. I mean, we still provide a very important service to these so-called DIY manufacturers. The same is true of Nest, maybe not the integrator channel per se, but professional installers, many in the HVAC world. So these supposed DIY companies do need our help in terms of not just in terms of installation and after installation support, but also in selling. These are not impulse buys for the most part. They have to be sold, not just carried.
Right, and at any level, there's a certain amount of expertise or, I guess, willingness to open up a switch box and install a dimmable controllable light dimmer or something like that. There's going to be some type of expertise that needs to be there, and if the end user doesn't possess that, they are going to need to seek out someone who can do that for them. So yeah, I think that this channel in particular is going to have some pretty long legs, even with all of the mass market DIY hysteria that's going on right now.
Yeah, and it's, installing switches is one thing. I have done it, but I don't particularly enjoy swapping out light switches. It hurts when you do it wrong. And but there, even something as simple as a little hub with a few Z-Wave devices, by the time I've read the instructions and made a bunch of mistakes and got everything done, it's going to take me an hour or two. Whereas someone that does this every day for a living, they're going to be in and out in no time. So, it's like IKEA furniture. I can do it. But when I do it once every 3 years, it takes me 5 hours, and I still have a screw that's left out and left wondering for the rest of my life where it should have gone. And that's when I started using an IKEA guy, and he charges $25 an hour, and he gets done in 2 hours what takes me 5 or 10.
Yep. Yeah, I had the same experience when we were remodeling our house with plumbing. Like, it's just pipes and glue. How hard could it be?
Right.
And, on the 50th or 60th little joint that you have to glue together and keep clean and make right, you're like, all right, I'm not even to the point where I'm putting fixtures in. Like, this needs to go away. I need to hire a pro and get them in.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, in the case of plumbing and in the case of IKEA furniture, you need it, you want it, and one bad installation experience isn't going to sour you on the idea of plumbing.
I don't know about that.
You're right. You got to have plumbing, but in our industry, it's the sad truth is you do it once and it's a bad experience. You're never going to do it again.
Right.
And do it once with DIY, for example, and you can't get it to work. You might be soured on this whole idea of home automation in the first place. You might not call a pro to do it because you hate it and you don't need it. So it's a problem.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's kind of jump into the meat of the show here and talk about some problems I guess two companies in particular are having. I kind of had a question on an article that came up a couple weeks back that you wrote on CEPro.com, and it's entitled "Crazy Home Automation Stocks: Control4 is Tanking, Alarm.com is Volatile." And I just had it's a really good article because it kind of outlines what I believe to be kind of the two really the only two companies that are purely home automation oriented that are public, right? There's not very many others that I can think of aside from Google, but that has Nest that publish their numbers, and Google certainly doesn't publish their numbers on what they're doing with Nest.
Yeah, that's those two really are the only pure play home automation stocks right now. Even companies like Honeywell, which has a thriving security and home automation business, that's among airplane parts. They're so diversified that it's hard to break out the automation aspect of it. Probably the closest one would be Nortech, which owns Elon Home Systems, 2 gig security and automation, which comprises a decent chunk of revenues for them. But Control4 and Alarm.com are really the only pure play home automation companies to go public in a very, very long time.
So I guess the news of the day with Control4, they had a really bad Q1, and I think. Traditionally, in the market that I'm in, for sure, we're in Sarasota, and Q1. Everyone's here for Q1, so we traditionally do have a pretty good Q1. But I know everywhere else in the U.S. it's pretty bad. That time right after the Christmas holidays, everybody spent all their money, and it just kind of slows down quite a bit. Control4 had that bad first quarter. And the market really reacted, I think they overreacted and brought their stock down. I think it was in the teens somewhere, and it brought down right now. I think it's floating around $7. Alarm.com, kind of the same, not really the same thing. They opened up, I want to say 16 or 18 somewhere in there, but it's just been up and down. It's been really, like you said, really volatile.
Yeah. A couple of things. On the Q1, first of all, we're talking about Q1 this year as opposed to Q1 last year. So even if there is that seasonality, you're still flat year over year, and that's a problem. Now, their explanation of that poor quarter, and I really tend to agree with it, or not agree with it, but believe it. I think this is a genuine response, is that Control4 announced a bunch of new products at CEDIA 2014, so that would have been in September 2014, and they were really exciting products. They weren't glamorous necessarily, but they were much better and sleeker and faster and more powerful than their current products. So a couple things happened there is that dealers put off buying legacy products, so they stalled those so they could wait until Control4 was shipping the new products. And so then while the sales of legacy products shrank, the new products didn't ship on time in Q1. So they claim they had a lot of back orders, and only time will tell if, in fact, that was the case when we see the Q2 numbers at the end of this month. So if they're right on, if they're correct, then we should see a nice burst in Q2. Every single thing I've heard from pretty much every single Control4 dealer is that the new products are excellent and rock solid. Furthermore, I really have not talked to a dealer that has seen any negativity in the business of Control4 currently, that their support is better than ever, the reliability of their products is better than ever. Having said that, no matter how good it is, if they stay on this course of targeting custom integrators with $1,000 and up systems, the market tends not to get so terribly excited about that.
Right, because right now there seems to be just a general hysteria for DIY products that are pretty much just point solutions. They're not integrated solutions. They're just, here's a magic door lock, or here's a light bulb that has a speaker in it.
Woo! Let me value you at $555 million.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is, when it was a tough sell when Control4 went public, because investors don't understand this concept of a professional integrated system, and especially one that, while Control4 is mainstream in our circles of professional installations, it's high end in the to Wall Street, which doesn't which knows $200 cameras. But when Martin Plain, the CEO, did his investor roadshow before the IPO, he had the very difficult task of explaining this category and this channel, and he did a good job. I mean, the stock was 10 times oversubscribed, he told me. And his pitch was like, hey, Control4 is in, 0.1% of American households. If we could quadruple that or quintuple that, that's a pretty big deal. And so the ones that signed on in the first place, they knew what they were getting into. This was not going to be some get-rich-quick stock. They had to trust that this category would grow and that Control4 would continue to do better and gain more market share in what it does. He's made it perfectly clear from day one that the company would not stray from this type of this professional installation channel. And in fact, he penned an opinion piece online recently that explained how basically the DIY market is not all that, as the kids say.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of those things. I think Control4, kind of above and beyond most of the other integrated, custom integration channel companies that I've worked with, has always been kind of positioned with like one foot, one toe kind of dipped into that water of the DIY. As a dealer, we've always kind of known that, they have those direct-to-consumer, I don't want to say tendencies, I guess, is the best way I could describe it. But, as a dealer, I'm fine with that. As a dealer, I'm okay with that because it's just like the Nest and the other things, that those bring awareness and products to the door. And if the product customers in the door, those products have brought customers into my door. And if Control4, does have a path in the future, where they think that the best path for everyone is to, sell a couple of automation type devices out to consumers, that's not such a bad deal, because those consumers are going to go find a dealer to put it in correctly and set things up correctly when it's not all working. Because I know Control4 is a great company, but they can't install stuff. So,
well, I could not agree with you more. A lot of the manufacturers in this business started in this business by cozying up to the professional installation channel and being quite loyal to them by not entering the direct-to-consumer market. But that is slowly changing. And the manufacturer's rationale is that, these dealers have been loyal to us. We don't want to undermine that loyalty by selling consumer products. But there have been many, many success stories of DIY type products that have DIY products that have in fact bolstered the business of professional installers. You look at Sonos, for example, while integrators yell and scream at them in public for trying to woo them while selling through Amazon.com, they will tell you that not only has Sonos made them a lot of money and won them a lot of customers, and in many, many cases, Sonos actually saved their businesses. So, and you look at a company like Lutron, which has done a masterful job of bridging the custom installation and DIY channels with tiers of products and services, that has brought a ton of attention to the Lutron brand at the consumer level. And dealers most definitely are benefiting from that, but also they're using these DIY products. They're installing these DIY products. If it's so simple for do-it-yourselfers to install, then the same could be said of entry-level technicians. There's no reason, most people on this planet are not going to want to do it themselves.
Right. The Lutron Caseta product is it's a brilliant example of how a company could, have one foot in DIY and then one foot in custom. And I know plenty of custom integrators that are using Caseta products in their systems in tandem with a control system like Control4, Elan, Crestron, in tandem with a Radio Raw 2 system, so they can get the nice Radio Raw finishes on the keypads, but still use Caseta to control the light loads at a much, much lower cost. And I mean, it's just a brilliant product. And I think that, like you said, the way Lutron has done this has been masterful. I mean, it is. They are truly a brilliant company for whoever laid out this roadmap for them a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and Control4, I think really needs to do that on some level, not just to make investors happy, but I think it would be very valuable to their business to help expand the brand. And consumers Control4 does have consumer brand recognition. But back to the stock price, yes, they were overly punished for their flat Q1, and they've gone further and further down. And I think when the original investors knew what they were getting into. They knew the plan. They knew it was a long-term story. The newer investors, they see home automation, they see hype, they get in, and they're, and Control4's not growing as fast as Nest thermostats, for example. So, and the other thing is Control4 is clinging to the professional installation channel, which, again, seems unattractive to people that don't understand it, which is most people.
Right. I mean, it's one thing. Even Nest has approached the custom installation channel. I mean, there is a Nest certified partner program that you can sign up for. So,
of course.
Yeah, you have to have somebody that knows what they're doing if you have an advanced product that kind of acts like magic. Let's talk a little bit about Alarm.com because they're the other stock that's in the article here. More of a software based platform, although they do sell. I guess they sell some branded products like cameras that integrate with their system. But this one I thought was just going to go straight up. Honestly, I thought Alarm.com was going to be the example of what a home automation stock should look like. Instead, it's kind of remained flat and just been, like you said earlier, really volatile. Any recommendations or ideas on what they could do?
That one is kind of weird. They did well. They offered the stock at $14. It opened at at 16 on the IPO, and it closed the day at around 18, so they had a nice start. And then people were trading millions of shares every day. It was kind of weird, going up and down and up and down. Now around in the 17s, which isn't bad, but like you, I thought there would be much more, again, hysteria. And it's kind of interesting. When you look at both Control4 and Alarm.com, one hardware-based, one software platform-based, which is all the rage, ultimately, they all serve the professional installation channel. Control4 has 2,000 plus dealers, professional installers. Consumers can't buy it themselves. Alarm.com has 5,000 plus dealers, installers. Consumers can't buy a product with the Alarm.com service on their own. It goes through a professional security installer who is installing the compatible security panels. So I don't know if that's rubbed investors the wrong way. Alarm.com did indicate in its filings that there was a DIY play in the offing, so it clearly is heading in that direction.
I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, if you look at what Canary and Piper and those types of companies, even ADT was kind of throwing their hat into the ring. They had a little product we covered a couple weeks back that I think LG was making, and it was going to be just plug it in. It talks right out to whatever service, Alarm.com, ADT, Piper, Canary. I mean, I can't imagine why they wouldn't have that product for sale on their website, and then have the real you want the super secure systems, go through a dealer and get that hooked up where it's hardwired into the house. I think that'd be huge for them. I don't see why they don't do it already.
They absolutely will do that. And there will be some grumbles in the installer community, because Alarm.com is a software company at its heart. 30% of its revenues do come from hardware, mostly cameras. The camera situation is a bad one. They have just a couple of cameras. They're not very good, and they're wildly expensive compared to the competition.
Yeah.
So that business will go away if they don't start integrating with third-party cameras or bringing down the price of that. If they do start offering their own product or platform directly to consumers, we might see some rumblings from not only the dealers, but also their hardware partners. So they partner right now with 2GIG and Interlogix and DSC and some others.
The thing with those particular, with the dealer-based channel really hasn't penetrated the security market as well as it could have. There's all sorts of edge cases of people that don't have a security system that's actually monitored inside their home. And I'm a security dealer as well. I'm an Alarm.com dealer as well. I can totally see a use for a little product or device for renters or seasonal people. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Condos are big around here. Yeah. That'd be great just to shove something like that, plug it in, and then they have a monitored security system that they could talk right into.
And again, even if it's a DIY product, immensely attractive also to professional security and automation dealers. The thing is, if Alarm.com starts selling their own hardware like that, they are going to be in a world of hurt with their existing manufacturing partners, which it could be a problem. Already their partners are looking at other services as well to support, so they're going to have to tiptoe.
Well, speaking of companies and products that are going to be in a world of hurt, it looks like Savant is now killing off Light Touch. And a lot of our listeners may not be quite familiar with Light Touch. I'm pretty familiar with it because must have been a couple of electricians in our area that were just big on it before Savant purchased Light Touch. So I run across the system quite a bit. Savant killing them off is major news for these customers, because if something breaks in the system, they're going to need to replace the entire thing, is what I'm understanding.
That is correct. And so there's a lesson here. I mean, So Savant was a nice home automation company. They, of all their, among all their peers, did not have their own hardwired lighting control system. So they did acquire Light Touch in 2012, which has been around for 30 years and probably has tens of thousands of installations. And it's an extremely reliable system. 10, 20, 30 years it'll last. But the problem with hardwired lighting control systems, there's many, many benefits, to be sure, is that everything's interrelated. So you can't, if one of the keypads, the dimmers, goes bad, you can't just replace it with someone else's dimmer. I mean, it's connected with all the back end stuff. Likewise, if the back end goes, you need to replace each element with a Light Touch part. So if there are no Light Touch parts available, you need to replace the entire system. And these are not cheap systems. So you can't do it in dribs and drabs. I had a woman email me earlier this week that she and her husband are about to close on a house they're buying, and it has a Light Touch system, an 11-year-old Light Touch system. She says, what's going to happen? Am I going to have to replace it right away with a, $20, $30, $50, $100,000 lighting system? And the fact is, the lights will not work. You will not be able to control them if the system breaks down. There are some kludges, but for the most part, you can't. So, yeah, it's going to be a big expenditure.
Right. This isn't as easy as going to Home Depot, picking up a dimmer of a different type, right, and putting it in the wall. These right, systems are designed completely different, where all the loads in the house, all the lights in the house run back to a centralized panel location or panels locations. And if the keypads aren't necessarily run on high voltage, they're probably run on some low voltage. I'm not familiar. Yeah, so Light Touch has a low voltage keypad system, and all of these systems were engineered. It seems just a little bit differently. Like the Crestron has, Lutron has one, Control 4 has one, and each one of them use different wiring specs. And there's all sorts of ways that different wire that you can use that will work on both of them. But I suspect that this is going to cause some problems for some clients, if they have a major disaster or something and they need to find parts for a Light Touch system. I suspect it's been on the market long enough. There may be a decent amount of parts out there for these systems, but...
Yeah, there should be, but and Savant is also offering a replacement kit. They'll sell replacement parts, through the end of September, but the big question is... do you invest in them? Because it's like throwing money out the door. I mean, if your system breaks, there's only so long you can use replacement parts. But,
right,
soon both the installers and obviously Savant itself are going to stop supporting the platform. So do you just invest wholesale into a brand new system, or do you keep fixing it along the way and then sell your house?
Right. That's always a tough call. Even when it comes to like home automation systems, I have a number of clients that have some really old Control 4 systems, 6, 7 years, 8 years old, that, over time we have taken out touchscreens and upgraded them to the new touchscreens, and eventually new processors got installed, and eventually...
Yeah, but this is different. This is because in your scenario, if the Control 4 system, so to speak, goes down, you can still control your lights and you can still control your thermostats.
Right.
In the case of a system like Light Touch and all of the ones that are like Light Touch, and there are several, the lights don't work. You can't replace a bulb with a smart bulb, for example, and have it work. There's too much at the back end that needs to go on. So, this is a very necessary thing to replace. And
right,
then, the whole wiring in the house is different. There's what the layperson would call high voltage wiring. It's really called line voltage behind a light switch that goes right to the lights above. In this case, that wire does not exist behind the keypad, so you cannot put a wire. You can't put a keypad there that requires power or traditional power, line voltage power. And before I scare anyone off about hardwired lighting control systems, they're great systems. You really don't have a choice for a really large house. You don't want a bathroom with 6 different switches for each load, one for the fan, one for the exhaust, one for this light, one for that light. And what a hardwired system allows you to do is to replace all of that with one discrete keypad with 6 buttons, and it controls everything in the house, not to mention the bathroom. So, and really all of the remaining hardwired lighting control systems, I'm not going to name names because I'll forget one.
There's quite a few.
they're very reliable systems.
Yes, they've been battle hardened. These are, and like you said, the light touch systems. There's some out there that are 30 years old that are still humming and buzzing along. It's not like these are. When these systems were designed, they were designed for the long run. They weren't designed to last a couple of years and die off. We have systems in the field, Lutron systems, Vantage systems in the field that have been there well over 10 years, and the processors are still the same, the programming's still the same, the keypads are all still the same, and they're highly reliable system, I guess is what you and I are both trying to say. So that's really not too much of a worry. But if you did have an issue with maybe a keypad or something, you'd have to hunt down one of those parts. And replace that particular keypad, or look at replacing the entire system out with something that'll be on the market for a while.
Yeah, I mean the good news is, even though Light Touch had a unique wiring scheme, even as far as hardwired systems are concerned, there are all of the majors are working on replacement solutions that use that existing wiring. So you're not going to have to tear down the walls, and at least you're saving that. You're buying everything else, but you don't have to tear down the wall. So
the industry response has been pretty hilarious to watch. Everybody has stepped up and said, "Oh, if you need a lighting control system, we'd be more than happy to provide one for you."
Yeah. Just spent $50,000 on a lighting control system. Guess what? We can do it again for $50,000.
Exactly. I thought that was great. So I have one more discussion point that we were going to try and get to before the show. We were running long or a little bit long on our time, but one more discussion point I'd like to get to, and one trend that I kind of noticed is really coming into to view, and that's the idea of these larger home builders, the big ones, the guys that are building thousands, if not tens of thousands of homes a year here in the U.S. are look like they want, or they have customers that are coming in the door asking for a home automation system. And these builders are large enough where they are able to either be approached directly by manufacturers, or they are approaching manufacturers directly and wanting to work with them on including some type of home automation package inside the home. And this came up to me on our last show when we were talking about the Legrand Intuity system and how that could be kind of a one of those builder package type things. I see that Control4, there was a story on your web on CEPro that Control4 was running one of these programs, and I think they were saying they closed more than 80% of the time. And there are a couple of other manufacturers that are working directly with builders. I want to say I read Savant and some other ones are out there, but this seems to be kind of the next. What I would see is the next big thing, where you go to build a home and your home builder has just a couple of standard packages that they can just check off a box and include home automation in your home. Is this what you're seeing? I guess, how long has the trend been going on? Is this something I'm just noticing? And is this something that...
Oh, you're just noticing it, my young friend.
Well, I got to say, haven't just noticed this. I worked for a company called Claire Controls a couple of years back that we discovered this market was kind of one of those untapped things, and we're working towards that. I think that they have been approaching that business too. So I'm kind of familiar with what's going on. I'm just kind of playing coy.
They have. They've had some traction. No, the difference now, I mean, it's, manufacturers and dealers have been trying to tap the home builder market forever, especially the production home builder, because they're in charge of what gets sold as options.
Right.
And, back in 2000, 2007 and 2008, before the big crash, dealers were doing stupid, crazy things like giving away all the pre-wire in a 700 home community, and they would give it away, assuming that they would make money on the upgrades, and they would meet all the homeowners and sell them, at the time, intercoms.
Right.
But sell all the upgrades because the wiring was all in the house, and that was never a good idea. Integrators don't ever give anything away like that. It's just silly. But and builders were adding it to their communities because everyone was flush. But then when times started getting rough in production home building, and they're looking for every line item to cut, it was a lot easier to cut automated lights than it was to cut Corian countertops. So the difference now is that people, especially the Gen Xers, are buying houses and stuff, and they do demand this. And the thing is, when home building starts booming again, which we're definitely on the rise, maybe not a boom, then builders have to work harder to differentiate themselves from their neighbors. And so, I hoped to have had the story up today, but I didn't. Just one example of integrator, Liberty Alarm and Home Theater. They were doing great builder business back in the day, and then it all slumped off. And now they've got Alarm.com with Interlogic security and home automation panels going into 700 homes in one new community. They've got they're pushing Control4 in another community, and they're not giving anything away, not even discounts for the model homes. I mean, the builders understand the value, and they're paying to promote these products and services. Now, I do want to. Oh, and the other one had been, during all this slump period, the one that had been getting some traction among home builders is Nexia. It's DIY product, and then $10 a month for very basic features. And builders were liking that because I think they gave the homeowners one little device, and everything else they'd have to pay for.
Oh, that's the train. I've seen that.
Yeah, that's the train stuff.
Yep.
But builders, I think, are tiring of that and really looking for a more robust solution that does more and is supported by an army of installers. I mean, you can't just run out and find a Nexia dealer to help you out. There's no such thing. You have to call a factory, and the home builders don't want that call, certainly. But I do want to just make sure to leave one comment. Yes, indeed, Control4 has a deal with Toll Brothers that they will be the exclusive provider of home automation system in new Toll Brothers homes. Now, these kinds of deals have been going down for the 20 years I've been doing this. And, while Control4 has worked very hard on this relationship, these are not necessarily done deals on the local level. The home builders have their own contractors that they like, that they're comfortable, that they want to work with. And while they get a mandate from above to use Control4, if they like if they already like their low voltage controller, who's, low voltage installer, who's not a Control4 dealer, there's a large possibility that they're going to pick their own brand. And there's never there's not often a guarantee that the builder is going to install a whole system in every home. I think in the case of Control4, many of the communities they are mandated to demonstrate a Control4 system, have a Control4 system and an installer on hand. But it still must be sold at a local level to the home builder in charge, that guy in charge.
Right, and that's what I've seen as well. And like you said, that this type of program is really nothing new. I find it. I guess have found it interesting that, and maybe I just didn't know this was going on in my early days, is that the CI vendors, that like the ones that we like Control4 are really, I think they're in a better position to approach, a national home builder like Toll Brothers and have those board level discussions about what they can do, than maybe the local installer. And, I personally, I think that's good money spent by, Control4 to get into Toll. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, and if Control4 has a good partner or a good relationship with a dealer in the market, there's absolutely no reason, why Toll Brothers wouldn't, use them. But I just think that that's a very interesting dynamic that I've seen just go on a little bit more now, I guess, that I'm paying attention to it, but than I have in the past. Like you said, when people were just doing stupid things and giving away pre-wires and not valuing their expertise and their time any. Yeah,
no, it's good. And, in Control4, and I have talked to established Control4 dealers that have definitely felt the positive impact of their relationship with Toll Brothers. So that is working well. But, it's still, home building is still a very regional thing, even though the headquarters tells you must do this. You gotta still play golf and drink fine wine and buy some steaks for the local guy in charge.
Yep, you're describing my job.
I know that's all you do all day long.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I tell my wife is, what were you doing today? Well, I was drinking wine and playing golf, and absolutely no design work going on. I don't sit in an office at all. So
no, yeah, and it's just Oprah and bonbons.
Yeah, this is the life. Julie, I just want to thank you very much for coming on Home Tech here and having a great discussion here and sharing your expertise on these subjects here. Where could listeners reach out to you and contact you or find more about you or read what you do online here?
Well, thank you for asking. You can find us, among other places, CEPro.com. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Julie Jacobson with an SON. You can email me at jjacobson with an SON at ehpub.com. I'm not out there in the field getting my hands dirty. Thank God. No, so really where I get my knowledge is from talking to consumers and dealers and other people in the industry about their experiences. So I always do like to hear from people. And I am moderating apparently the smart home panel at CES 2016 this year. So I'll be providing some more information on exactly who's going to be on that panel. And we sure appreciate your including us in this program today. And I want to thank all the listeners for joining in.
Absolutely. We will put all of the links of everything that we talked about and those links to get in touch with you in our show notes, which will be over at HomeTech.fm/shows/72. Julie, thanks very much again, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Well, you too. Thank you.